In 2048, the SpaceX Corporation succeeded in researching and combining machinery with the human brain. More than 100 years later, they researched the nanomachine to combine with the human body to create super soldiers. But then they encountered some trouble from other forces. To be more successful, they thought of bringing this nanomachine back to the past. Let's explore it together. The story is about Prince Cheon, the illegitimate child of the demon group sect leader. To be recognized, he must compete with 6 other sect leaders to win the throne and become one of the strongest demon gods in martial arts history. However, to achieve this, he receives a system from his future grandson to revive his family. In a dense forest, with tall trees, an old man is immersed in a cold, dark night. A young man with a body full of wounds, torn clothes, and a face full of fear is running fast in the dark as if trying to escape from something. The young man is running for his life when he suddenly trips over something that blocks his path. Tripping over the roots of an old tree, he loses his balance and falls forward onto a rocky cliff. Frightened, he can only scream. The fall causes him to slide down from above and hit the ground hard. A loud cry echoes far away, promising a bad situation. Struggling to stand up with all his strength, the young man struggles with the pain in his body while standing up and thinking bitterly. His leg must be broken. After trying his best, he sits up after the painful fall. He looks up ahead and tries to get up to continue running away. But in front of him is a group of mysterious people in red cloaks standing high above, looking down as if waiting to swallow their prey. Seeing the group of people in front of him, the young man's face becomes angry, still not understanding why they followed him here. The men in front of him spoke up, "You've only run half the battle and you're already here, it's really hard work, Prince Cheon." "We've been waiting for you for too long, Prince Cheon. What should I do now? I don't have the strength to run anymore. Why are they still chasing me here? Why? Even though I gave up on infiltrating this place. What reason do you have for wanting to take my life?" A masked man with cold eyes said, "Even if you give up on infiltration, whether you have martial arts or not, it doesn't matter." Prince Cheon didn't know that he was a member of the Fuma sect sent to assassinate Prince Cheon, our protagonist. "We just follow the rules of the guard. Prince Cheon, just surrender your life obediently. No matter how miserable you are because of your lowly bloodline, today we will release you." Hearing the harsh words from the Fuma sect, Prince Cheon froze. Low bloodline, Prince Cheon gritted his teeth and continued speaking, "You dare insult my mother?" Every word from the assassins made him extremely angry and his eyes showed hatred. "They will make me no longer suffer. If I have to die, then I would rather risk my life to fight back." The assassin saw him pull out a knife from his chest with contemptuous eyes staring at him and said, "Have you learned Jang warrior's martial arts?" Prince Cheon was afraid but still determined to point the knife at the assassins. He carefully held the knife tightly with both hands while feeling anxious and tense inside. "No, I'm still very clumsy, but that bloodline still flows within me." The Fuma sect assassin thought that no matter how skilled or talented he was in martial arts, he could not resist it forever. Haha. The prey must be like this to be interesting when hunting. Thinking so, 4 assassins flew straight towards Prince Cheon. Oh no! Holding a short knife swinging wildly, Prince Cheon tried to fight back. Seeing the small prey in front of him, trying to resist, the assassin threw his sword with great force. Prince Cheon's sword hit his palm hard. Prince Cheon's short sword slipped out of his hand, and he cried out in panic. Quick as a cut, the assassin reached out his hand and grabbed him by the neck, lifting him up high, causing his small body to hang in the air, far from the ground. No longer resisting, "Why?" The Fuma sect assassin glared. He was caught, but it wasn't over yet. Prince Cheon quickly pulled out a backup sword from behind his back and dodged. The sudden scream of the assassin from behind made the assassin in front turn around to look. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Prince Cheon quickly finished him off with a sword. A loud thud echoed, not believing his eyes. Even a small worm dared to resist. The group of assassins standing behind could only stare. The assassin who had just violently lifted Prince Cheon up could only kneel down in pain. Fortunately, Prince Cheon escaped with his life. Perfect, he smiled triumphantly, his face full of indignation. There was a small boy who didn't know martial arts but had the ability to assassinate members of the Fuma section. Could it be the misleading trick? The assassins hiding behind couldn't help but argue about this situation. They could only use their most unique tricks. Even if that little boy was really good at martial arts as mentioned, the remaining assassins would surely direct their killing intent towards Prince Cheon. He shouted, "You bastard!" He kicked forward with a thud that made Prince Cheon fly out. The strong kick just now made a weak and powerless person like Prince Cheon unable to withstand it. He lay on the ground without any strength left, blood flowing from his mouth. "I'll make you taste it," said the cold-faced assassin. With a thud, the sword quickly struck down on Prince Cheon's body. Prince Cheon could only scream. The assassin stepped heavily on Prince Cheon's bleeding wound with streams of blood flowing down. He looked at his prey lying in pain on the ground and spoke happily. "How does it feel to have a hole in your stomach?" Prince Cheon was in so much pain that he dug his fingers into the ground creating scratch marks. "It's hateful that they can only be fooled once. It doesn't matter if I killed one of them anyway." The assassin continued to step heavily on Prince Cheon's stomach wound caused by being stabbed by a sword slowly and painfully until he died. Prince Cheon could only scream and endure it. The man frowned with an unhappy expression but couldn't do anything about it and just thought to himself, although he didn't agree with that method much, there was no other way since one disciple had died. Suddenly there was a mysterious yellow light shining brightly from somewhere rushing towards the group of people. A man in a red cloak witnessed everything in front of him with wide eyes full of fear and surprise as if he had just seen something incredibly terrifying and scary, not believing what was happening in reality. The yellow ball rushed straight towards the man in the red cloak who was stepping on Prince Cheon's wound. The powerful destructive power of that mysterious yellow ball caused that evil wind to explode into pieces. His body exploded into many small pieces no longer intact. Blood splattered all over the ground. What was that light just now? The three remaining assassins were stunned and asked each other from behind. One seemed to know where to point his finger far away. Prince Cheon lay on the ground trying to look up and saw that the disciple who had been stepping on his wound earlier had now exploded into pieces with blood scattered everywhere. Three disciples held swords in their hands and ran to where the strange noise was coming from. Suddenly, they saw a mysterious person standing in the shadows from afar, surrounded by a blue light. Suddenly, a young man with short hair, his body surrounded by a layer of sea blue protection, looked at the three people in front of him. The three disciples were surprised to see the man turn around and didn't know where he came from. He was a young man not from this world, a young man from the modern world with a pair of technological glasses on his head and electronic lights around him. The young man stood calmly with his arms crossed. An assassin frowned, staring intently at the strange young man in front of him, full of doubt in his heart, wondering what was going on. Seeing that kind of outfit for the first time, suddenly the young man from the modern world revealed two hands raised in front of him with a meaningful smile on his lips. "I don't want to spend any more time here." An assassin didn't care and rushed straight towards the young man in front of him. With a fierce momentum, he shouted loudly, "Another one." Seeing this, the young man remained calm there, his face down and his palms clenched. This time, the light appeared again and rushed straight towards the disciple who was rushing up. A series of bright red colors from an assassin burst out in front of the others, an electric light shone out. The strangely dressed young man just now suddenly disappeared as if melting into the air after the explosion in a mysterious and scary way. The sudden disappearance of the mysterious young man in front of them made the two disciples confused and scared. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. King Kong didn't feel like he was transparent like water, the Fu Ma sect disciple worriedly thought. Suddenly behind the disciple appeared blue lights like electric currents quickly passing by, and then another assassin was added to the scoreboard. Not believing his eyes, there was a power that could kill people so quickly. The remaining one could only shout loudly to his master, wondering what that light was. Could it be the power of a master who had reached the highest realm? That little guy was helped by a master. The remaining assassin, holding his sword while trembling, asked himself as he turned towards Prince Cheon. He thought that anyway he had lost too much blood and would die sooner or later. As if he had achieved his goal. He thought and fled. The disciple turned around and quickly ran away from there. Retreat. The assassin displayed his power and jumped into the air as if he had completed his mission. The shining hand of the young man from the future seemed to hold on to the remaining assassin, and then there was a loud explosion sound. Perfect. Looking up ahead, Prince Cheon smiled contentedly, but because he had lost too much blood, Prince Cheon's consciousness gradually became blurred. His eyes gradually became dull, not seeing clearly what was in front of him, and gradually closed completely. Is your ancestor happy lying dead on the ground? That call made him try again to open his eyes to see who it was thinking inside. Who is my ancestor suddenly appearing and saying strange things like why? His vision gradually blurred, so he didn't know that even people were freezing cold. Prince Cheon lay on the ground with wounds, struggling to breathe, sweating coldly with blurred consciousness. He thought he wouldn't make it. Would he die? Suddenly the young man from modern times looked at his watch on his hand and then spoke. I just discovered it's annoying, there's no other way. And then pulled out a strange device from behind his back. He said, I intended to come earlier to show you how to use it, but now I have to hurry up before he dies. The young man pulled out a syringe and injected it into his ancestor's neck. After injecting the mysterious medicine into Prince Cheon, he looked over the wounds on his ancestor's body, feeling sorry and heartbroken, saying that it hurt just to look at it. After finishing everything, the young man finished speaking. He tried to call his ancestor in front of him to see if there was any reaction. His ancestors must succeed in order to help future generations. Prince Cheon lay on the ground with blurred consciousness, hearing the words echoing in his ears. Because this nano machine is the most advanced, so it's easy to use, he will soon know how to use it. Prince Cheon lay on the ground with a painful body, struggling to breathe, looking up at the strange young man with confusion, not knowing what was happening in front of him. The words just helped the mysterious young man disappear in an instant, as if blending into the air. Prince Cheon's face was confused, thinking, what has that weirdo been babbling about all this time? 03-445-325-8993, a series of numbers suddenly echoed from within the young man's mind, causing him to panic and open his eyes wide. He felt a little scared and confused inside, thinking, there is a strange sound in my head. The strange sound continued to echo. SpaceX Corporation, 7th generation nanomachine starts operating. A muscular and strong martial arts master with a strong aura was practicing martial arts alone. The story tells that long ago, people in middle of China learned martial arts to protect themselves. Over time, martial arts developed from self-defense against injury. Simple martial arts became techniques, and techniques were transformed into complex forms, along with breathing becoming the foundation of internal strength. People practiced martial arts through mantras and secrets to pass on their martial arts to future generations. Gradually, martial arts were cultivated to be so strong that people could break a rock or a hard object with their bare hands. That development became a martial arts secret where people with superior abilities than ordinary people who were called martial artists gathered together with those who wanted to become disciples of a certain martial arts master, called sections. Sects were divided into orthodox sects following the orthodox path and heretical sects following the heretical path, two opposing forces that restrained each other. Pursuing completely different paths of domination and only worshipping their own path, the world called them black sects and demon sects. This is the illegitimate child of the demon sect who surpassed the demon sect leader and became the second generation of heavenly demons. The story of Prince Cheon begins as his eyes under his messy hair gradually open full of wounds, suddenly jumping up with a surprised and shocked face looking at his palm, not believing his eyes. Prince Cheon asked himself, am I still alive? Clearly I died under the sword of those black-clothed men, but the young man put his hand on his forehead thinking with a confused face, not remembering why he was lying here. Why is my body so wet with such a weak body? He let out a very loud breath. Huh? What is this? What are these black spots? Why are they appearing on my body? Prince Cheon pulled up his shirt and looked at his heavily wounded body. Black spots also appeared on his chest, thinking disgustingly that the smell was terrible. My whole body is stinky. Suddenly there was a voice that made him jump in surprise. Master has woken up? He jumped up in fear and asked, who are you? His doubtful eyes looked around. There's no one here? In the end, where did that voice come from? The voice rang out again. Please calm down, Master. Prince Cheon thought to himself, is this a transmission? It wasn't like before when he only heard the transmission once, but this time it was different. It was as if it was coming directly from his head. Prince Cheon wondered if it was really like that. Yes, Master, the voice continued, you are very difficult to understand. He shouted, who are you? I am the 7th generation SpaceX nanomachine, connected to the Master's brain. With a confused mind, he angrily shouted, what the hell is going on? Who did this to me? Nano continued, I am the 7th generation nanomachine. Prince Cheon asked himself, is this an old demon god? The voice continued, yes, I am a nanomachine. Frightened and surprised, he opened his eyes wide and thought to himself, if it was the existence of the essence of the demon religion, he was afraid and immediately knelt down with his knees bent and his hands on the ground. He knelt down in reverence and said with a trembling voice, is it really you, demon god? He thought there was some kind of demon god coming to save him in another context. In the magnificent palace hall, two men were talking to each other and inviting each other to respond. As they walked and talked, they said, is it an assassination? The Jang warrior furrowed his brow and gritted his teeth. I have underestimated assassinations in the past, but I never expected to be defeated yesterday. The old man stroked his beard and said, only the Fu Ma sect can defeat a master like Jang warrior. The Son of Heaven still survives in their hands. It is truly heaven's will. Maybe someone helped Prince Cheon, but we can't know who that benefactor is. The doctor replied with a grunt, with your skill level, you can't even guess their whereabouts from their wounds? Jang warrior felt uneasy and then recalled the fierce battle yesterday. The scene before him was a dark space. The scene I saw yesterday was truly terrifying. In the misty fog, the dark forest stood before a half-dead body. The bodies lay on the cold ground with no trace of their upper bodies. The bodies of the Fu Ma sect were scattered everywhere, but there was one intact corpse. It was the person killed by the short sword stuck in his neck that I had given to Prince Cheon. Suddenly there was a sound of something. At that moment I heard someone breathing heavily not far away. The person lying motionless on the blood-stained ground was Prince Cheon. He lay still in a pool of blood with a pale face and no signs of life on the ground. But his body had no wounds. The doctor asked Jang warrior again, his breathing is like someone sleeping. Clearly there are sword wounds on his clothes, but Prince Cheon's body is completely clean with no wounds. The doctor closed his eyes and stroked his chin and thought. In the end, who saved him? Surely the leader would not intervene in the battle. I also think so. The two continued walking forward while talking. Haha. This is really interesting. Quickly take me to Prince Cheon's room. What? Not human or demon god? Prince Cheon asked sadly. Nano replied that it wasn't me who dealt with those who harmed Master, but if it comes to restoring Master's dying body, then it's me. Prince Cheon was confused and trembling. He said, "What is self-recovery?" Nano replied, "Transmitting basic information into the master's head, then the more he talks, the more questions he asks." "What is a master?" "He starts searching for the current language and initiating changes." Nano answered Prince Cheon's questions. "Master, I am not the demon god you are talking about," he thought to himself in surprise. "Huh?" Changing the way he spoke, "If you are not a demon god, then what are you?" The sound in his head continued to echo, "I will transfer information explaining myself and how to use it into Master's brain. Do you agree?" Prince Cheon nodded and blue electric currents began to surround him. His pupils contracted and turned blue, his eyes widened, his pupils shrank, and many rows of numbers with hundreds of digits appeared before his eyes. The large electromagnetic waves made his body restless and dizzy. Unable to control himself, he vomited on the floor. When transmitting information, this phenomenon will happen for the first time, but from the second time onwards there will be no dizziness or vomiting, Nano informed. "I'm so dizzy, what the hell is this with my weakened body?" His eyes narrowed and he said with a small voice, "Nano machine." Nano replied, "Yes, Master, is it true that there are now tens of thousands of machines in my body?" His face was sad and worried. "Can they leave my body if I want them to?" Nano replied, "With your permission, I will send information to the Master. I am only programmed to leave the body when the Master is completely dead. My brothers and father have different intentions to kill me when I have no strength. Now there is a nanomachine that I don't understand how it entered my body." Prince Cheon shrank back and thought with a sad face, "Why did this only happen to me? Who put someone in my body?" Suddenly there was a knock from outside. It was Jang Warrior. He said Prince Cheon Bitch's doctor had arrived. Prince Cheon looked surprised at the door and trembled. "Nanomachine, if they see me talking to the device in my head, they'll think I'm crazy." "Master just thought so, I understand," Nano replied. Prince Cheon said, "I know now, so be quiet for a moment." As if understanding his intention, Nano turned on temporary mute mode. It seemed that Prince Cheon had not yet woken up and did not hear the reply. Jang Warrior looked at Prince Cheon and said, seeing Prince Cheon open his eyes, Jang Warrior shouted loudly, "Prince, you're awake. Is your body okay?" Suddenly an unpleasant smell emanated from Prince Cheon's body, causing him to recoil in disgust. The strong smell spread throughout the room, making Jang Warrior cover his nose. In the end, what was this smell? Prince Cheon lay on the bed thinking, "Oh my god." Seeing that Prince Cheon was still healthy, the doctor stood outside looking surprised. The doctor near the bed leaned down and asked Prince Cheon, "Prince, do you know this old man?" Prince Cheon replied, "Yes, every time my mother falls ill it is Bitch's doctor who comes to treat her. How could I forget?" He held out his hand in front of Prince Cheon and said, "Give me your hand so I can take your pulse." Prince Cheon hesitated, but then the doctor brushed it off and continued, "I don't mind giving you my hand here." Bitch's doctor took hold of the young man's arm with its black spots. He placed 2 fingers on his wrist and began pressing on his veins. His face was shocked, his eyebrows furrowed down and his eyes showed clear signs of panic and worry. The doctor said seriously, "It is a strange thing." His words made the young man worried. He shouted, "What do you mean? Is there something wrong with Prince Cheon?" On the contrary, it would be more accurate to say that something strange happened to Prince Cheon. The Jang Warrior was surprised and asked the speaker. The old doctor was meditative, stroking his beard, and continued to speak, "The whole body poison has been expelled, and the blood flow is also circulating." Did Prince Cheon use any spiritual medicine or medicinal wine? Prince Cheon thought back, Prince Cheon with a puzzled face. He didn't understand what the old man was saying. With a bewildered look, he asked again, What are you talking about?" The doctor looked suspiciously at Prince Cheon lying on the sickbed and said, "What I mean is that this is the body of a martial artist. Prince Cheon was extremely confused and many questions arose in his mind, causing him to blurt out. Doubtful of the old man. The scenes just now when he was alone in the room appeared in his mind as if he had thought of something. He said so, but that black spot. Prince Cheon thought back to when he saw black spots on his nails, chest and all over his body, which were toxins expelled by his body. Suspiciously thinking to himself, he asked, "Are you a nanomachine? Are you doing it right?" A voice in his head rang out, "Master wants to cancel the mute mode." Why cancel? The mute mode has been cancelled. The device in his head began to analyze and the nanos were arranged all over his body to help detoxify his body and transform into the most ideal shape to enhance the mobility of blood vessels, tendons and muscles. He silently asked himself, "Who are you really?" With a smug look on his face and a smile on both corners of his mouth. Not a demon god, right? Not a demon god, but a nanomachine, master. Then he suddenly woke up and realized that the doctor was still in front of him. Oh my god! The doctor came from the poison demon sect and had to hide the nanomachine in his body. Nano continued to report, "With the most advanced technology, we will definitely not be detected." Master, the old man stared at Prince Cheon with a suspicious look on his face. Surely someone has helped. The doctor said to the guard next to him, "There is nothing unusual about the body. I will prescribe a tonic for Prince Cheon's original chi." Jang Warrior replied to him thanking Becky Doctor. "Now that you are leaving, I will see you off," Jang Warrior asked the doctor. The doctor replied, "No need, you just take care of Prince Cheon." The doctor walked out of the room. There were still many unanswered questions in his head. He stroked his beard and meditated on his thoughts. It's really a miracle who can do this. Clearly he was kicked out of martial arts training because of his small stature in the past. Currently Prince Cheon still can't compare with the sons of other sections. As he spoke in his head he saw Prince Cheon as a child. Sure enough it's from head to toe carrying the bloodline of the sect leader or pretending not to care but actually caring very much. But if it's secretly helped by a sect leader then I don't need to pretend anything pretending not to know. The demon group in will definitely be noisy this time, said the doctor as he walked along arguing with himself. When he left Prince Cheon lay on the bed, breathed a sigh of relief and thought to himself. Fortunately he's not very sharp-eyed. The young man lay on the bed looking at his bodyguard and was still alive thanks to Jang Warrior. Although it was a nanomachine that treated him if Jang Warrior hadn't appeared at the right time maybe. Prince Cheon slowly sat up and spoke. "Jang Warrior, thank you for saving me." Before he could finish his sentence, the guard interrupted Prince Cheon and said, "Please forgive me, young master." Jang Warrior, looking at Prince Cheon with a look of avoidance and disgust. He said, "Go take a bath first." Prince Cheon, embarrassed when his body exuded an unpleasant scent, just smiled and agreed, "Okay." After going through so much, finally Prince Cheon can soak himself in a hot bath to relax. But in his head he seemed to be thinking about something he couldn't say. He put his hand on his forehead and began to think. "Nanomachine, yes master," Prince Cheon asked again, "did you just treat my body? Is it really possible?" Nano replied, "Long-term internal injuries or external collision wounds can all recover quickly. However, the loss of blood and the removal of body parts will take quite a long time because cell division is needed." The young man looked doubtful with a puzzled face and replied, "Oh really? Why do you keep saying difficult things? Why doesn't the master try it directly?" The little master glanced at his hand hesitantly thinking. He took a sharp knife and placed it in the palm of his hand as if he wanted to test what the voice in his head said was true. As soon as the words were finished, there was a wound on his hand. Then there was a blue light surrounding the wound. Prince Cheon was surprised. The deep cut in the middle of his palm had now healed. His hand was almost completely healed and the blue layer surrounding it gradually disappeared, leaving a healthy intact hand without any pain. Staring intently at the newly healed hands, his eyes were doubtful, soaking himself while doubting silently. "I can't believe what I'm seeing," he asked. "How can there be self-healing ability? Can all the content you transmitted into my head earlier really bring out all its potential?" Nano replied, "All those contents have their own features." Prince Cheon excitedly continued, "Okay then, hurry up and let me see it once." The young man stood up and stepped out of the bathtub, revealing his muscular chest like the body of a long-time martial artist. His abdominal muscles also became firm and strong like a real fighter. Looking down at his strong body, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Wait, nanomachine, are you talking about this? Is my body strong like I've been practicing for a long time? Are you doing it?" "Yes, I have restructured your body," Nanomachine said. Suddenly, behind an old servant standing at the door, said, "Young master, let me help you change your clothes, okay? Scientifically creating organic from inorganic is not impossible." "Nanomachines, please continue to provide data," Prince Cheon urged. "But regenerating the body and existing muscles is not difficult." Prince Cheon found it difficult to understand, so he asked, "Just choose difficult words to say, right?" Listening to him talk as if all the knowledge he had learned was useless, all things he had never heard before. "But this nanomachine is too troublesome, so can I call it Nano?" Nano replied, "Recorded Nano calling style." Prince Cheon continued stiffly. After being dressed neatly, he walked to the library of the mansion as if wanting to search for something else. "This is the library." He turned to ask Nano, "What should I do now?" Nano replied, "Master, please look straight at each page of the book so I can see." He doubted what he heard and asked again, "Just look carefully, right?" Nano replied firmly, "Yes." "The martial arts books here only have books on blood flow and technique transportation. 3 talents, 3 methods is a method created to train spirit and body. Even if you practice for a lifetime, you cannot reach rank 3 master." Prince Cheon chose a book from the shelf and decided to read it. "Let's start, Nano." "Yes, let's start," Nano agreed. He flipped through each page recording the mysterious martial arts techniques from ancient times passed down. His hand kept flipping through the book non-stop for a second. Each page was opened and entered into view. It seemed as if he could feel a stream of power that allowed him to absorb all the knowledge recorded in the book. His eyes lit up in a blue color. "Finished flipping, Nano," Nano reported, "finished scanning the blood flow book. Immediately moved to the user's brain." "Please approve, Master." Hearing the system finish, he asked curiously, "Scan, you mean copy the content?" "Yes, does the Master agree?" Prince Cheon replied, "Okay." After an agreed consent, his eyes seemed to shrink. A strong current ran across his head, making him feel surprised and overwhelmed. In front of him, as if another world appeared with thousands of characters running in front of him. A world of modern times with advanced technology, completed moving scan content into the brain. A wave of nausea came over his body, causing him to try his best to suppress it. Nano reported, "Will adapt soon." He was surprised to hear the system in his brain say so and asked again worriedly, "For me?" Nano replied, "I'm just telling the truth, Prince Cheon." Insensitive to not knowing what worry is, he seemed to have calmed down and sat back down on the chair. "What should I do now, Master?" "Try thinking about the information that has been transmitted, like when receiving instructions on how to use Nano." He closed his eyes and began to meditate, remembering the knowledge he had acquired. Blood flow is blood vessels playing an important role in blood flow and blood flow through the human body. Typical are acupoints and acupressure. Prince Cheon opened his eyes wide in surprise, not believing what he just remembered. He continued reading the mantra, "When you poke your finger and you can temporarily paralyze your opponent, that's acupuncture." Haha, no way, this isn't cheating, not only memorizing but also understanding all the content in the book. The faulty part has been automatically corrected and transferred to the master. Prince Cheon was surprised with a curious face, feeling like it was impossible. What is capable of? Meaning I can learn martial arts secrets faster than anyone else. Still very surprised with a smile on his face. Knowing that in the future, as long as there is this system in my brain, my life can be no less than any martial artist in the world. The successors of the six sects have learned superior martial arts since childhood. I can only learn 3 talents, 3 under their supervision and monitoring, in the martial arts library of Demon Group, and there are both useful and useless martial arts books and various types of useless martial arts books stolen from both orthodox and evil sects. But I heard that there are martial arts books of today's magic sects in Demon Group's warehouse, as well as many other books stolen from other factions. The young man with a fiery face silently determined that with this ability I will be stronger and survive faster than anyone else in Demon Group in. That is my goal, where I live as a successor to the small sect leader of Fu Ma sect in southeast Demon Group City. A voice spoke up. I told you to get rid of someone I don't want to see, and now you say that the 5 people who went with him are dead, huh? Do you think that's okay? The young master shouted. The Fu Ma sect's subordinate, wearing a cloak, trembled and said, as if there was some intervention from some mysterious master. Young master. The young master angrily turned around and shouted, who allowed you to call me that? He was mixed with low blood, so I thought there was nothing to worry about. But it seems like he has something to hide. I have misled his guards. So who's protecting him? The young master angrily asked. Although it will dirty my hands, there is no other way. I will kill him directly at Demon Group in Prince Cheon. The sunset gradually fell on the martial arts training mansion, and the sun was gradually disappearing. When Prince Cheon was gradually sinking into darkness, it was time for the young man to rest, lying on the bed thinking about everything that happened in today's life, when he began to confront the masters of the six sects.